The average campaign of Long War 1 takes about 250 hours to finish. That might seem like a lot, excessive even, but just remember that it's only a sixth of the Battle for North Africa's average playtime. I have beat 3 Long War 1 campaigns and got another 3 to the endgame. That only took me about 5 years. It's taken me a long time to articulate my feelings on this game, and I still don't think I'm all there yet. Though, that being said, I think I've finally realized why Long War 1 feels so good to play, whereas other strategy games don't. Oftentimes, getting screwed over by bad RNG once doesn't catastrophically tumble into losing the entire campaign, and even if it does, it's probably your fault. Your fighting force in Vanilla Enemy Within was 4 guys. Now it's 6 base and goes up to 8 and even to 12 in some circumstances. If someone goes down, either by genuine tactical misplay or complete Bravo Sierra, you have other tactical elements which you can still use and rely upon. In something like Jagged Alliance, the game recommends you run around with squads of 3. In that case, having someone go down starts a ceaseless spiral of death because a third of your options were just wiped. Because death is so punishing, you're forced to play extremely safe and will inevitably find yourself cheesing the AI when your 2 dudes take on an outpost of a dozen. Long War 1 evens the scale a bit. There's less of a focus on the power of each individual unit, and more so your squad as a whole. For instance, pressing targets is pretty good on its own, but with an additional flanking element to scare the enemy, it gets even better. This style of game isn't anywhere near as engaging for me with a lower character count, like something you see in Mutant Year Zero or even XCOM 2. The Jagged Alliance example really is perfect because it highlights exactly why I find this superior to this. On one side, you're managing a battlefield with defined front lines and opportunities for flanking, and on the other side, I think it speaks for itself. Having a lot of bodies on the field means that you're not hyper-punished for making mistakes. It can be bad, devastating even, but with a level head you can reorganize and still have a decent shot at success. You have safeguards and it takes a string of mistakes to fail rather than just one bad case of luck. For an example of this done badly, we don't even have to stray out of the series. Chimera Squad shows off exactly what I mean. You have so few squad members that if someone goes lights out, it is inevitably going to fall into an action economy spiral where the enemy having the upper hand on actions just gets worse and worse as you have less and less tools to combat them. This can absolutely happen in Long War 1 as well, but under most circumstances it requires a massive blunder on the part of the player. There are very few enemy abilities which target more than just one guy, and so usually taking multiple losses is the result of getting flanked, which in itself is a tactical error on the side of the player. In Chimera Squad, you don't have enough options to prevent these issues due to the pacing of the game. That's not wholly bad, but I don't find it as enjoyable personally. I like commanding a full squad of 10 that all has each other's backs, and Chimera Squad is distinctly not offering that experience. You're 4 cops blundering in on people. So, to recap, the main thing Long War 1 does over the base game, and many others in the genre, that I really enjoy is significantly increase the unit count across the board. It immediately skyrockets the amount of tactical options available, and it makes the game significantly less seesawy, much more consistent than the others in the genre when it comes to these squad tactics. Operators vs. Aliens is a set of mods for XCOM 2 made by Beagle, which genuinely made the game into my favorite XCOM experience I've ever played. It, shocker, also doubles XCOM's squad size and turns fights into a beautifully chaotic 10v30 mess with suppression everywhere. If this ever gets fully patched up and made properly playable rather than the half-finished mess it currently is, I would be ecstatic. But even in its half-put-together state, I do genuinely love it. The ideas in this mod, such as front-loading all the perks onto weapons, are so interesting to me, and it plays so uniquely from other strategy games. It is a shame that XCOM 2 runs about as well as a pilot with no legs, and doubly a shame that OVA will presumably be left in a state of limbo forever. Back to Long War 1. It's distinctly unique from other games I've played that, in general, you never tend to have the good option. Let me give an example via D&D. A party about as generic as possible comes across a group of enemies. What each of them will do is pretty dictated by their class and is usually pretty straightforward. The Berserker will charge, the Mage will fireball, the Paladin will smite, the Rogue will fire from stealth, the Bard will, do something, and the Cleric will be boring. In Long War 1 put into the same scenario, there's very rarely an option that will clearly present itself as the optimal route. You could run up and throw grenades, but that might put you out of position and or damage the artifacts we're hoping to recover from the bodies. You could just try to hold and prepare a flanking element, but that might activate more enemies. You could just hold your ground, use hollow targeting, and then try to punch through their cover with volume of fire. You have lots of tactical options, and rarely is there ever simply one choice. Additionally, your squad's comp will further enhance your options and give you even more choices. The Rocketeer's namesake, the Gunner's suppression, and the Assault's fucking legs are enormous boons which will give you access to really good, potentially mission-changing abilities that have far too many applications to list. They are simple abilities at their core, but something like Run and Gun opens up so many potential options that there's no clear best one. All of these options end up making Long War 1 feel far less like an exercise in fighting with the random number generator than something like Darkest Dungeon does. Instead, it feels like wrangling the RNG with a lasso by altering as many factors to be as favorable as possible to you, and I've never experienced that in any other title. You can never really be sure that you're going to win guaranteed due to the nature of RNG, but in my experience this simply adds tension rather than annoyance. There are so many ways to lasso the RNG that anytime things go dramatically wrong and you wipe out of your hands, which, for the record, I have found to be incredibly rare, I have always found it more funny than bullshit. The game does do everything in its power to make you feel genuinely terrible about soldier deaths, though. It's not ham-fisted like XCOM 2, where Bradford comes through the radio and goes, "Commander, we're losing men left and right here. We have to do something." Instead, you're just left with their really well-acted pleas for help as they get wiped one by one. The mech death voice lines are my favorite. In general, the mechs sound like all emotion was surgically removed from them during the transformation process. Mech status, yellow. And their death rattles feel like the last emotion they had left, echoing out before they go.
Did what I could.
Didn't think I'd go out like this.
System shut down.
Oh, glory is fleeting.
All things come to an end.
Enemy Within has such a good tone, and Long War 1's way extended pacing only makes it better in my opinion. Enemy Within is all about this one question: do we risk our humanity for the sake of total victory? As previously mentioned, the mechs appear to have no emotion left. Some of the gene mods, like neural damping, have uncomfortable implications. Did we just lessen someone's emotional range, or full-on lobotomize them to make them immune to panic? How do they feel about that? Is it reversible? The mech transformation sure as hell ain't. After the war is over, is someone with bioelectric skin going to end up like Chuck with his space blanket? There are so many unknowns for these technologies that Vahlen slapping them on whoever volunteers really does make her come off like a wicked scientist with absolutely no moral compass. It manages to do all of that while never bringing attention to it, which I find incredibly impressive. Vahlen making the alien rulers in 2 may seem out-of-character evil, but she was already pretty insane in Enemy Within, as evidenced by her stuffing people into piss back to tanks. I don't find the mechs as uncomfortable because of 2 reasons. The first is very simple: envy, I wish I looked like that, and the second is that Shen seems like a way more level-headed dude. There are a lot of voice lines where he sounds genuinely remorseful and questions if what he's doing is right. Vahlen does have a couple like that too, but they come off way more like her trying to justify her actions than genuinely question them. The good characterization doesn't just lie with the characters that speak, though. Each enemy in this game has unique AI so distinct that they come off like individual personalities rather than different sets of parameters. Mutons frequently run out into the open, sectoids can be intimidated cower, discs are scared shitless of suppression, drones are frequently brainless, and floaters are idiots. This might sound like it brings the game down, but it actually brings so much character to what the aliens do. You might be terrified of them enacting 8D chess moves only for a muton to charge at you screaming. In XCOM 2, it feels like all of the enemies act the same and never make technically inoptimal choices. It is more fair, but it's also boring. Long War 1 main, quote, issue is its pacing. Mission bloat, especially later on, is pretty severe, and the amount of UFO missions you have to do has permanently soured me on these maps. There aren't really missions that feel like downtime either. Even a Crash Scout, the easiest possible mission, can have a Sectopod or Ethereal on it late enough. It does always keep you on edge, and it demands that you play optimally all of the time, which can definitely be exhausting. I would estimate that every mission is probably about an hour-long minimum, going up all the way to 5 hours for the longest base assaults. You have to do maybe 2 to 4 of those per campaign, plus Temple Ship at the end. That's about a full day spent in these missions alone, but they feel so rewarding to pull off that I wouldn't want it any other way. And no, I'm not addicted. I can stop anytime I want. It's not just missions that are longer. Everything on the strategy layer takes time to produce and build, and a lot of time. You have to think your moves a while in advance, which makes pulling it off all the more satisfying. Getting your first shipment of new armor always feels incredible because you've probably settled on doing that at least a real-life week ago. It's not arbitrarily gated off like an MMO with timers, it's just that playing Long War can be so fatiguing that I can only get through a few missions at a time. You may have noticed that I specified Long War 1 throughout this entire video, and that's because Long War 2 is an entirely different beast that I don't like very much. It's not a pure sequel that's better in every way, it's a very different game and is, in my opinion, much worse. Long War 1, on the other hand, is an absolute technological marvel and is incredibly impressive in just about any way. Any video that you see from me, hell, arguably any video you see online in general, is inherently going to be a subjective opinion. It may occasionally come off as if I'm presenting my opinions as facts, but that is just the natural outcome of trying to present a cohesive argument which is entertaining to watch and not interrupted by, in my opinion, every sentence, although I still do that sometimes. Trying to make a video which is pure facts, completely unmarred by a dreaded opinion, is precisely what leads to those 40-minute long video essays that go on way too long over irrelevant topics and are just like the video version of pretzels with no salt. I bring this up because my experience with Long War is a very, very, very personal one, and not something I think I can approach with much objectivity. This video is not a deep look at how Long War compares to other games on the market, though I would like to make one of those at some point. It's an explanation of why it's special to me. I don't think Long War is an experience for everyone. In fact, I think it's an experience that very few people might truly enjoy, but I love it. Thanks to Emmy for their reckless financial abandon. Both them and the rest of my patrons are all wonderful people. Love you all, and join my Discord. I might play more of this campaign there, I'm not sure.